Welcome to Roll Credits. Today we're diving into the gritty, emotional, and fungus-filled world of The Last of Us Season 1. From behind-the-scenes details and Easter eggs to how the show brought the iconic game to life. If you love the series, wait until you hear what went on off-screen.
Absolutely.
We've got a stack of sources here, articles, reviews, trivia lists, production notes, and our mission is, well, to extract the real gold, the fascinating insights and comparisons that help us understand what made this season resonate so deeply with so many people.
Exactly. It's more than just, recounting plot points. It's looking at the how and why behind the adaptation choices, the production challenges, and the performances that stuck with us.
Yeah.
It's about taking all these disparate facts and finding the connections.
Okay, let's unpack this apocalypse then, starting right at the beginning, literally the beginning of the show with that chilling cold open in the first episode when you're lost in the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
Where we hear these epidemiologists talking about the real threat.
That scene between Dr. Newman and Dr. Schoenheis was, well, brilliant because it immediately reframed the typical zombie apocalypse, didn't it?
Totally.
Dr. Newman cuts right to it. She's not worried about viruses or bacteria long term. Humanity always finds a way to combat those.
Right. She says mankind has always eventually won those wars. And then she delivers the absolute mic drop. The true threat is, well, fungi.
And she explains why it's terrifying. Not just a simple infection, but control. Like certain real-world fungi that infect insects, take over their bodies, flood their brains with hallucinogens, and essentially turn them into puppets with a single directive. Spread the fungus.
And that image of the ant being controlled, compelled to climb high just to spread spores, it's just nightmare fuel.
It really is.
But she also gives us the glimmer of hope why it hasn't happened to humans yet. Our internal body temperature is too high.
Right. Fungi generally can't survive over 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Exactly. But then she makes the crucial, terrifying link to climate change. If the world gets slightly warmer, just slightly, it could push certain fungi, including cordyceps, to adapt. Just one gene mutation, she says, and suddenly our bodies are viable hosts.
And if that happens, we lose.
Yeah.
Because, as she puts it, there are no treatments, no cures. It's a fundamentally different kind of threat, not death, but horrific, controlled life and forced replication.
And the showrunners, they cleverly weave the implied origin of the outbreak into the early episodes. Episode 2, Infected, strongly hints the pandemic started in Jakarta, Indonesia.
Jakarta? That seems really specific. Why there?
Well, the sources point out that Jakarta is home to one of the largest flour mills in the world.
Ah, okay.
So the theory presented is that contaminated flour was the most likely vector for such rapid global spread. Think about it. Flour gets shipped absolutely everywhere.
Wow. That's a grim thought. And looking back at the first episode, you're right. There are all those subtle little hints about flour.
Yeah.
Sarah can't make Joel pancakes. She turns down the neighbor's biscuits. Joel forgets the birthday cake. Those weren't just random character moments. They were quietly reinforcing this idea that contaminated flour was already in the food supply. It's a great example of background detail, adding depth.
Totally. And speaking of depth, bringing this terrifying, overgrown, post-apocalyptic world to life visually was a massive production challenge. A huge amount of filming took place in Alberta, Canada. And
they really stretched Alberta's landscape, didn't they? It stood in for everything from Boston, Massachusetts to Wyoming.
It did.
Though flipping through some reviews, not everyone felt it was a perfect match. One review noted that the mountain landscapes didn't always feel quite like the dense hardwood forests you'd expect 10 miles west of Boston, like in the Bill and Frank episode, Long Time.
That's a fair point, yeah. But overall, the production design got huge praise. The level of detail in creating these ruined cities and overgrown natural spaces, as mentioned in the review for episode 4, Please Hold to My Hand, really sold the world.
Oh, absolutely. And then there are the infected. They're just central to the horror. The sheer scale of bringing them to life must have been immense.
Absolutely. That attack scene in episode 8, Endure and Survive, which our sources note was referenced in some production materials as episode 5 initially, required nearly 400 visual effects shots alone. They were blending CGI with hundreds of filmed extras and practical makeup effects. It was huge.
400 shots for one scene. That's staggering. And the bloater in that sequence. Just terrifying. I learned from the notes that was actually a practical effect for the most part.
Yes, mostly practical. They used a 6'6" stuntman inside a heavy foam rubber and latex suit.
Wow.
It was detailed with slimy lubricant, spines, and spiky hairs. Sources noted it weighed upwards of 40 kilograms, or over 88 pounds.
Which apparently is even heavier than the Vecna suit they used on Stranger Things.
That's what they say.
You can really appreciate the craft that went into those practical effects and the design of the infected overall, including the clickers. Those horrific blind infected that navigate using echolocation received significant praise, like in the Episode 2 review.
Though it is worth mentioning, one review in our stack for the finale did comment that they felt there was maybe a relative lack of infected, particularly clickers, across the season as a whole, considering their iconic status in the game.
That's an interesting note. I mean, they certainly made the encounters they did have impactful.
For sure.
But while the infected are the monsters, the show is really about the human element, isn't it? And that begins and ends with the casting.
The choice of Pedro Pascal as Joel Miller and Bella Ramsey as Ellie Williams was absolutely critical, yeah. And the widespread praise for their chemistry was everywhere. Reviews for Infected, Please Hold to My Hand, Kin, and When We Are in Need all highlight it. Many felt they didn't just play the characters, they became them.
And they had this interesting pre-existing connection, right? They were both in Game of Thrones, though they didn't share scenes. Pedro was Oberyn Martell, and Bella was Lyanna Mormont.
Right, and there's this lovely detail Pedro Pascal shared. Apparently he calls Bella Ramsey by the nickname Belly.
Oh, that's sweet.
It speaks to the bond they clearly formed off-screen, which no doubt translated to their on-screen dynamic.
What's fascinating is that both were initially told not to play the game after they were cast.
Yeah, and Bella Ramsey apparently disobeyed those orders.
Yeah. Good for them.
It's interesting to think about the different approaches actors take. Some want to immerse themselves completely in the source. Others want to build the character from the script alone. Bella clearly wanted the full picture.
Yeah, makes sense. Beyond Joel and Ellie, the show featured some incredible guest performances that really elevated specific episodes.
Oh, definitely. Christine Hakim's brief but so well-acted 8-minute scene in Infected, where she conveys the devastating realization that there is no hope and recommends bombing the city, was incredibly powerful. It captured the feeling of the world ending in just one conversation.
And, of course, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett as Bill and Frank in Episode 3, Long Time.
Ah, yes.
Their story was a significant departure from the game, and reviews called their performances heartfelt, honest, and raw. It was widely seen as one of the most moving displays of humanity in the entire season.
Agreed. And Storm Reed as Riley in Episode 7, Left Behind, which adapted the game's DLC, the downloadable content focusing on Ellie's backstory. She was praised as so well cast and really embodied that character well.
Yeah, she was great. And Scott Shepherd as David in Episode 8, When We Are in Need, his performance was described as superb, making his initial kindness feel genuinely off-putting.
Oh, intensely off-putting.
Before revealing his truly horrifying nature.
One interesting point, though, from a review for Episode 4 was a critique of Melanie Linsky as Kathleen. Yeah, the reviewer felt she wasn't quite threatening enough as the rebel leader and suggested that maybe Anna Torv, who played Tess so effectively balancing toughness and vulnerability, might have been a better fit.
Huh. That's a fascinating counterpoint.
Yeah.
You can see how casting choices are subjective, open to different interpretations. It leads us nicely into discussing how the show navigated adapting the source material.
Well, the show was overwhelmingly praised for its fidelity to the game. Reviews repeatedly mentioned scenes that felt much like the game, some even described as shot-for-shot adaptations.
Right.
Particularly in Infected in Episode 8. One reviewer went so far as to call it one of the best adaptations ever made on film and exclaimed, "The fidelity to the game is fantastic."
That level of faithfulness must have been incredibly rewarding for longtime fans. They even pulled specific, small details directly from the game, like Ellie's joke book.
The joke book, yes.
Which showrunner Craig Mazin felt was crucial for showing Joel opening up. And musical cues like "I Got You Babe" in Left Behind and Hank Williams is Alone and Forsaken in Episode 4 were lifted straight from the game.
But they weren't afraid to expand or change when it served the story either. The Bill and Frank storyline in Episode 3 is the prime example.
Definitely.
In the game, Frank leaves Bill and is found having taken his own life with a bitter note left for Bill. The show gave them a completely different, shared, and, well, arguably more emotionally resonant ending.
It really did. And even when they stuck to a major plot point from the game, like the devastating outcome for Henry in Episode 8.
Oh, yeah.
The notes revealed the showrunners discussed alternative scenarios before committing to the game's version because it represented the worst possible outcome for a parent.
Yeah.
That shows they weren't just blindly following the game, but making deliberate choices.
And another key part of the adaptation was bringing in actors from the game itself. Merle Dandridge reprising her role as Marlene, transitioning seamlessly from voice actress to live action.
And in a truly poignant casting choice, Ashley Johnson, the original voice and motion capture actor for Ellie in the games, played Ellie's mother, Anna, in this Season 1 finale.
Yeah, that felt like a real passing of the torch moment, didn't it?
It really did.
Then you have Troy Baker, the original voice and motion capture actor for Joel, playing James, David's right-hand man, in Episode 8.
And fun fact from the trivia, he actually expected to be cast as an infected.
Aha! I love that.
That's hilarious. Jeffrey Pierce, the game's Tommy, played Perry, Kathleen's second-in-command in Episode 4. And even Laura Bailey, known for playing Abby in The Last of Us Part 2 game, had a brief cameo as a nurse in the finale.
Seeing all those familiar faces from the game pop up in new roles was such a fantastic nod to the source material and the actors who originally brought these characters to life.
Totally agree. It's also fun trivia to see which big names were considered before the final casting. Like Josh Brolin, Mahershala Ali, and even Matthew McConaughey were apparently discussed for Joel.
Wow, McConaughey is Joel. Interesting.
And Maisie Williams and Caitlin Dever were on the radar for Ellie, and Caitlin Dever is now cast as Abby for Season 2.
Which is perfect casting, I think.
Yeah. Going back to listener experience, though, while the fidelity was praised, some reviews noted the pacing, especially towards the end, felt a bit rushed.
Yeah, I saw that too. And that seemed tied to the debate about episode runtimes. Some viewers felt certain episodes, particularly those focused on character backstory like Kin and Left Behind, could have benefited from being longer, to allow moments more room to breathe.
Makes sense. Let's highlight a couple of episodes that were consistently called out in our sources for their particular impact, beyond just their plot points.
Okay.
Episode 3, Long Time, is the obvious one. It became this unexpected standout episode, didn't it? A deeply emotional, self-contained story about finding connection and purpose, even in this bleak world. The praise was just universal.
It really was. And Craig Mazin shared his philosophy behind casting comedic actors like Nick Offerman for such a dramatic role. He believes funny people have soul, which is essential for conveying deep emotion.
I love that. Episode 7, Left Behind, was crucial as Ellie's backstory, adapting the game's DLC. While some found it a bit slow, or felt the story could have been told through flashbacks, others argued it was essential for understanding Ellie and her journey.
And a specific detail from that episode that stands out is the use of Etta James's I Got You, Babe. Neil Druckmann felt the romantic lyrics hidden beneath the joyous music perfectly mirrored the complex feelings Ellie and Riley had for each other in that moment.
Oh, that's a great insight.
It adds another layer of meaning to the scene, doesn't it?
Definitely. Then, Episode 8, When We Are in Need, was consistently described as the darkest and most disturbing episode, and also a very faithful adaptation of a really difficult part of the story.
Yeah, that one was intense. The storyline with David and Bella Ramsey's performance in that episode received huge praise. And that quote from Joel when he finally finds Ellie, "It's okay, baby girl. I got you. I got you."
Oh, just gut punch.
Instantly resonates with the emotional core of their relationship.
And Episode 6, Kin, focused heavily on Joel's vulnerability, his reunion with Tommy, and the evolving dynamic with Ellie as she starts to see his weaknesses.
That episode featured the use of Depeche Mode's Never Let Me Down Again. Interestingly, it was performed by Craig Mazin's daughter, Jessica.
Oh, wow.
And Craig explained that the song's dark lyrical meaning about addiction, "I'm taking a ride with my best friend, but knowing they are likely to let you down," connected deeply to Joel and Ellie's complicated, codependent journey together.
So it's not just a song choice, it's commentary on their relationship.
Exactly. Very layered.
Beyond the major points, the sources offered some fun, specific trivia and Easter eggs too.
Yeah, like the concept, mentioned in an Episode 2 review, of the fungus having its own kind of internal internet where infected communicate.
That's a chilling idea.
It wasn't explicitly stated, but inferred from the show's presentation and appreciated by viewers.
In Long Time, there's that memorable psycho bunker argument where Bill, in peak paranoid form, insists the government are all Nazis.
A quote pulled straight from the game, maybe a bit exaggerated for effect.
And a small goof noted in Episode 4. Despite Joel being hypervigilant, using broken glass as an alarm system, he and Ellie sleep in plain view of the door in one scene.
Yeah, little things.
And revisiting Troy Baker's cameo as James in episode 8, the fact that he expected to play an infected is still such a fun piece of trivia.
It really is. In the finale, Look for the Light, there was actually a debated ending, according to the production notes.
Huh.
Showrunners considered a slightly longer, sadder version showing Joel and Ellie walking not really together but apart after the hospital, lingering on the emotional distance created by Joel's choice before fading out.
Wow, that would have hit differently. Definitely. And speaking of the finale, a little visual goof was noted. In the hospital scene, a bullet shatters some glass, but a few seconds later, some of that same glass reappears.
It happens sometimes in production, little things you don't notice unless you're looking really closely.
So, why do all these details, the contaminated flower theory, the weight of the bloater suit, Bella Ramsey disobeying orders, the specific song choices, the cameo, why do they matter to you, the listener?
Well, I think they pull back the curtain on the intentionality behind this adaptation. They show you the choices the creative team made, where they decided to stick rigidly to the beloved source material and where they chose to expand or change it to tell a different story or, deepen a theme.
Right, they reveal the layers of meaning woven into the production, from the subtle hints in the background to the specific songs used.
Exactly, and they highlight the incredible craft involved in making a world feel real, even a post-apocalyptic one, whether it's through stunning production design, terrifying practical effects, or truly human performances. Ultimately, they enhance our understanding and appreciation for why certain moments hit so hard, why certain characters resonated, and why the show was so successful at bringing this world and these people to life.
Thinking back to that first episode and Dr. Newman's chilling quote about fungi controlling minds, turning hosts into puppets, and then considering Joel's choice in the finale, Look for the Light, to save Ellie at any cost, even potentially dooming humanity and contradicting his own earlier cynical view of people. What does this show ultimately say about control, about human connection, about the different forms survival can take when pitted against a force that seeks to dominate?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It leaves you pondering who truly holds the reins. The relentless spreading force of the fungus, or the equally powerful, sometimes destructive force of human love, and the drive to protect the people who matter most to you. It's complex.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the infected zones of The Last of Us. If you enjoyed the episode, share with a fellow fan, leave us a review. And don't forget, when you're lost in the dark, look for the light.